Welcome to A Dad's Path, where we navigate the heart and science of parenting. Each episode, we tackle issues that dads everywhere face and deliver actions you can take right away. Join us as we uncover the balancing act of raising resilient, loving kids. Visit us at adadspath.com to learn more. Ready for the journey? Let's begin. Hello and welcome to another episode of A Dad's Path podcast. I'm Will Braunstein. Today we're here with Vince Shorb. Vince is the founder and CEO of the National Financial Educators Council, which is an organization dedicated to promoting financial literacy education and providing people with the knowledge and guidance they need to foster greater financial well-being. His mission is to ensure that today's youth graduate and learn with the practical skill set they need to navigate life's financial challenges and empower them to lead secure, fulfilling lives. Today we're going to talk about core financial skills that all kids need, the role of parents in that education, when parents should start talking and teaching their kids about money, how parents can contribute to their skills and development in that areas, and more. So you can learn more about Vince and his work at thefinancialeducatorscouncil.org. That'll be in our show notes. But excited for this conversation. Welcome, Vince.
Hey, thanks for having me, Will. From your intro, it sounds like we're going to be covering quite a bit of stuff here.
Better talk quick. Yep. No. We'll see where things go, but I know those are topics that, I'm interested in. A lot of my listeners, I think, are too. So we'll try to address as many of them as we can. But to start, I guess, what are some common financial challenges that young people are facing today that you're seeing?
I think the biggest challenge is the influences that are coming into our kids' lives, right? We have advertisers starting very, very young. It's not advertising telling them to save money and develop virtue and values and take care of your family. It's buy this or you're not cool, right? So a lot of ads are starting very young and they're so sophisticated. When I was young, we had TV, radio, not to age myself, but nowadays it's like cell phones follow you, product placement, all these things that are influencing our kids. We also have influencers, right? The people on the YouTube channels, the other pseudo influencers, but some of the biggest channels for kids on YouTube are unboxing videos where kids will get a new toy and they'll unbox it and show their viewers. And for teens, they call them hauling videos. They'll go shop and they'll haul and bring that in. And then we have, the celebrities, sports stars, those people that are having those influences as well, where they're showing a lifestyle that looks great. And it's a great goal to have, but there's a process to get there. In addition, this is not only influencing them, but it's influencing their peers. So, Tommy has the new shoes. I want the new shoes. I want this purse, and it has a big impact. So I think the biggest challenge facing our youth today is these exterior messaging that's telling them, I'm not good unless I have this. I need this to be cool. I want to have friends and be loved. That's just a basic human need. And I need to have these things to do so. So today parents have a tougher job in raising kids, especially not to develop that consumerism mindset and helping them develop value for what they are and what they're bringing to the table without those things.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense and resonates all too well. I mean, we see kids on social media and, to your point, just YouTube and that it can almost bring up a bigger question of values too, how, like, what you value, what you want your kids to value, because especially in this day and age, I think consumerism is becoming more in your face and more targeted, so that brings out more challenges. I do have some questions about technology, but I'm going to hold those a little bit. I want to dig a little deeper in terms of what we should be teaching our kids. I mean, what are some key financial skills that you think our kids need to learn at a younger age, or as if they get into the high school years? Are you tired of feeling like the only way to get your kids' attention is to raise your voice? Well, I'm here to tell you there's a better way. My name is Will. I'm the founder of A Dad's Path. And as a dad myself, I understand how frustrating it can be when your kids are pushing your buttons. I created the 30-day no yelling challenge because I've been there. I've experienced the helplessness, the frustration, the nonstop yelling when nothing seems to work. But I found a better way. And now I want to share that with you. Imagine turning those stressful moments into opportunities for growth and connection. No more yelling, tantrums, fighting matches. That's what the 30-day no yelling challenge will do for you. Here's what you get with the challenge. Daily emails with practical tips and tools to help you stay calm. instant solutions to those crazy parenting moments where you just need a little help. And we'll help with your child, because when they're ignoring you or not following directions, that's often the cause of our tempers. So we want to help them as well, and much, much more. I know it seems almost too good to be true, but I've seen it work for hundreds of dads just like you. Turn anger into moments of opportunity, frustration into calm and connection. That's what the 30-day no yelling challenge will do for you. So if you're ready for more smiles, less stress, and a calmer way forward, click the link below. Let's make this positive change together. So take the challenge today. You can see how much easier parenting is when you're not raising your voice. You deserve it, and so does your family.
Actually get that exactly at that age, but it's building habits so we can have monthly conversations talking about these. And as they progress through their teenage years, we're breaking down the household finances, cell phone, gas, electric, getting down into the fine details. So it's the training wheels before they move out on their own. So they're contributing toward the expenses. And with the savings, obviously having them save for the long term is important, but also for the short term things they want. So instead of little Johnny going, hey, mom, dad, I want this, at the store, saying, great, you can get that. You have saved that money, but you want that teddy bear now, but didn't you say you wanted to save for that bike, right? You can buy that teddy bear now, or you can continue to save for that bike. If you buy the teddy bear now, there's consequences, right? You're not going to be able to get that bike as soon. It might wear out, and letting them make the decision. So we're helping them build the muscles, right? The delayed gratification and opportunity cost in a rather fun way. And it's, you're avoiding a lot of conversations that might be tougher later, because once kids' financial habits are formed, just like any habit, it's tough to break. So if they're in the habit of throwing a fit every time they don't get something at the store, that likely will continue. So it's important we're establishing good financial behaviors at a young age. And Chores is just one way to do so. But I think it's a very effective tool, especially if there's time set aside on a monthly basis to have those conversations, review how well they did with work, review how well they did with giving them little things where they can manage those expenses for the house, and how they're doing their savings plan as well.
I like that a lot. I mean, that's a very dense and a good way answer. You just covered a lot of great ground. Like um, starting with awareness, I think that's huge. Making your kids aware, not just of what money is, but of your household expenses, of our household expenses, so they can see,
Yeah,
okay, well, these are decisions that I have to make, and that you will eventually have to make. Like money doesn't grow on trees, unfortunately.
true.
So to start learning that is a great lesson. I think the monthly meetings are genius. I think that's something I haven't heard before, but makes a lot of sense. Doesn't need to be too formal, but just if you do it on a regular basis, again, you're creating that awareness, that education of what money is, why it's important, and they can start seeing progress. I wonder, maybe you create little graphs or visual depictions of what's happening so they can actually see over time, hey, I'm saving money, or I've spent my money on that, dollhouse or that toy that, maybe I wanted, maybe they wanted, maybe they didn't want, but seeing that I think would be cool. So great
I'd
ideas.
agree. Any of the visual aids you can bring in, and it's fun, right? We can have those conversations, and those monthly meetings establish a pattern for their future. When adults say, hey, it's the end of the month, I got to look at my bills, right? We all have to do it as adults. Hey, it's time I do it. So it's establishing a habit for the future as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think this is sort of what you're saying, or maybe directly, but parents aren't always the best at that either, because before you have kids, you feel like you have all the time in the world. Once you have kids, things just where'd my
Yeah,
time go? So and my money. So
true.
that's why it's so important to have those meetings, not just with your kids, but I think with your partner, with your spouse, saying, hey, end of the month, this is where we spent our money. We, saved this much, or we lost this much, whatever it was. But just being aware of it also gets rid of that anxiety of kind of feeling the unknown of like, I don't know how I'm doing, or I don't, the future's kind of
Very
unknown.
much.
But if you know the numbers and you just review it on a regular basis, it's a great idea. And it gets you aligned with your partner too, right? You can have, we don't need to go too deep here, but you can have, budgets where it's like, okay, we each get $500 or $100 or whatever it is for ourselves, for personal
Yeah.
things, right? And then you won't feel badly if you're spending something and on the flip side, you won't feel, anger or resentment if you see your partner spending money on something that you don't necessarily, value as much.
Yeah, very true. And the interesting thing is we hear from parents, when they start to do these types of things with their kids, they're more focused on their finances. So almost the education works opposite. So excellent insight there. You hit the nail on the head, and it's a great time to have those conversations. If you establish a time where you're doing your finances and then the kids, hey, it's a double win.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And the other idea, you gave, and I think you did it real well, are chores. Comprehensive chore plans. I think is how you put it. And with chores, it's real important that there are set chores that everyone has to do to contribute to the household, and then, as you said, there's extra chores. Maybe you can, or your kids can do to earn some more money. And I was curious, yeah, I mean, how would you set up a chore plan, both with the current chores that the kids need to do, but then also adding in some other ones? Or is it more ad hoc? A kid comes to you, says, hey, I want to earn more money, and you come up with some ideas? Or do you try and be more proactive about it, saying, here's your money, but if you want to earn a little extra money, you can help with these areas? What would your approach be there, Vince?
Yeah, I think the more options you have to put in front of them, the better. So you can go online, find age appropriate chores. We have lists as well. Parents can download, but it is nice to have something where they go, hey, I want to earn $20. What can I do, right? And they're able to go through that. Again, when they're little, it may be more you're prescribing these specific chores. As they're getting older, maybe they want that bike or they want to go somewhere. They want to do something fun, and now they're looking, hey, what can I do to earn that $30 to be able to do this? Then there's some motivation for it. There's some reasons for them. And anytime we can shift the parenting from the telling to giving the kid the opportunity to ask, say, hey, I want to do these chores, right? It doesn't feel like it's a punishment almost, right? It's something I've chosen to do because I want to have this thing. And I think anytime we can get even adults to that position, it's a good thing. So I would suggest, and there's no right or wrong way to do it, but I would suggest having a list of chores with the actual amount that they would earn. So again, it will excite the kid. The kid can design, oh, I'm going to do the lawn on Friday, and then on Monday, I'm going to wash the car. So yeah, that's what I would suggest, and we've seen good results with that model.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What about the role of allowance? Do you prescribe allowance, and then how do you come up with the right number there? And do you
You
connect
know,
that to chores, or is that, sorry to
yeah,
interrupt, or is
it really varies. Yeah, it's tough, because everybody's in a different socioeconomic status, and it can be very. If you're well off, well, I mean, it may be different, and you're living in an area that's more expensive. If you're living in New York City, you may have to get more because it's more expensive than another area. So, work within what you can do. But as far as allowance, if you're looking at prescribing any type of allowance, I would always say never give a kid money unless there's work involved. So it's just not free money. Oh, $20 I get this month. What'd you do? Nothing. No, there has to be something involved to earn an allowance. I see a lot of families that have allowance for kids, and it's good on the second half, maybe where they can manage and do that savings and saving for things that they want to buy. But it's missing a critical element, which is the work ethic. And Brown University had a great study out there. I think it was 50,000 youth and families, and by age 9, work ethic habits are formed. They're habits at that point. So it forms very young. So I'm always encouraging, a lot of families will say, oh, my kid's too young. Work ethic habits form young, and there's fun ways we can get them involved too. It doesn't just mean sending them off to do chores alone. It could be working alongside you and washing dishes or putting away something. So it could be made into a bonding experience as well.
no? That's great. Yeah, I'd love to dig in there a little bit more on both the topics of work ethic. So just more ideas on what you'd recommend, and then I guess kind of within the subset of work ethic is delayed gratification, which, yeah, how do you start developing that with a child?
Yeah, the work ethic, I think, it's through reward and also punishment side, right? So you have the good and bad side. As humans, we strive toward pleasure and away from pain. So if there's both of those motivators, hey, we're gonna do it. But the goal is to eventually shift them to more focus on the pleasure that they can get from that. So hey, there's chores you need to do, and here's your pay. You need to do them each month, or there's some punishment, right? There's some punishment involved. But we can make those chores fun, we can make them engaging, and also we can customize them based off what the kid's telling us they have an interest in. So if the kid has an interest in, let's say bikes, so we'll just go back to that example. Maybe you have you want your bike cleaned and detailed, right? So they're cleaning the chains, taking it apart. So you're giving them something that they can have some excitement about because they have an interest there. Now, it might be tough to find all those things, but there's we can get creative as parents in doing that. I also think it's important to introduce careers early on in a kid's life. So it might be a step away from the chores, but there's some motivators to develop certain skill sets that we can relate to chores. So it might be a soft skill set we're developing through chores that might relate to something that they want to do later. So let's say they want to be a fireman, right? Well, there's certain things that they may need to understand, know, and it might be a big stretch, but hey, they have to water the garden, right? Well, you want to be a fireman. Hey, you're going to be putting out fire. This is going to be a skill set you need to have. You need to roll this up. There's processes and procedures with being a fireman. You need to learn how to take care of equipment. So we're developing those soft skill sets as well. And I think anytime we have a kid that's passionate about anything, right? And going back to when I was a kid, I wanted to be a stuntman. So my parents were like, oh, okay, cool. Here's what you need to do. You need to be flexible. You need to be able to do this. They bought me some pads and things like that. And they probably thought he's never going to be a stuntman, right? He doesn't like heights too much. But, it was just the fact that, hey, they gave me a path to develop skill sets down that road, and training to do and things that I can work on. And even though it's not let's say a chore contributing to the family, it was still a work ethic exercise that was helping me toward my goal of being the stuntman.
I like that. Yeah. So not a well. Don't give up yet, Vince. You could still be a stunt man. See which which way your career goes. But
I've taken a couple
that's
spills lately. The recovery time's a little longer than it used to be when I was younger.
yeah. No, that's a challenge as we get older. In terms of he, I'll use the word, just the real negative word, bribery. When I was a kid, we had like a library program where if we read a certain number of books, we got, um, you know, prizes or something from the library. Which uh, I didn't think was a bad idea and kind of worked for me. My parents did something similar. If I read a certain amount, they bought me I think it was a Game Boy back in the day. It was over a long period of time, certainly. But I guess what I want to dig on a little bit is the role of extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation. Because when you are like I use the word bribe, when you're bribing someone or paying them to do something, that tends to be their motivation more versus uh, the love of it. So another example would be practicing music. My kids play music, and if I, what would your thoughts be on kind of bribing them, saying, hey, if you practice every day, you get X dollars or something like that. I mean, does motivation, how does that factor to these things?
Yeah, ideally it would be more of something that they're making intrinsic, right? So that's the goal we want to shift to over the long term. Bribed work, it does, but I feel a long-term change happens when somebody has developed strong enough reasons for them to do it for themselves and for their loved ones, and for where they want to be. It's a challenge to take them there, but I think if we can find the motivators and reasons for them to do so, it's a big opportunity. I recently had my girlfriend's kids, teenagers, and I was demoing a place. I demo places and for real estate investments. And I said, hey, you guys come up. I'm going to show you how to do this. If you ever have a home, both of them want to buy a home. When you have a home, you're going to know, you're going to learn. There's no pay. I'm treating you like a foreman at work. So there's no messing around. You get 10-minute bathroom breaks. No, you get 5-minute break for lunch, a couple sips of water. And so I treated it like that. And I gave them money at the end, but it was, hey, you're not getting any money. You're going to just do it. But I sold them on the fact that, hey, they want to be homeowners. They should know how to do this stuff. And I made them work hard, right? I treated it like just like a boss when they're slough and they were real good workers. But if they were kind of starting to slow down, hey, you got to move, right? So I sold them on the idea of, hey, this is important to them, so they were motivated not by the money at the end, but by what they would learn. And I think anytime we can get kids excited about learning, and I think schools do a horrible job there. By the time most people are done with school, they're like, oh, God, I don't want to think about studying anymore. But learning is amazing. There's so many things we can learn nowadays. It's the beauty of the modern day. We have internet, we have access to everything in our fingers, so we can motivate them very easily on ideas and things that we learn about our kids. So as you're learning these things about your children, make sure you're storing that. Hey, you said you wanted to do this. Let's get into it. Hey, you said you might want to be a chef. Let's get into cooking. Yeah, the prep work's not the fun work, but it has to be done. Cut the onions. So, if you could sell them on the fact it's for them, for the future, for what they want to do, I think that's the best motivator. We may have to put in bribes early on to get them there. And for certain things, there may be no fun way to, if they have to go clean up after the dog, it's really hard to spin motivation on that, but it's something that needs to be done. So sometimes just in life, we have to do things that we don't like. So just helping to build that motivation for them, I think is the biggest thing that is important for kids to actually take action.
Hmm. I like that. Yeah, you're great examples. You sell your kids on the positives and get them excited, and hopefully that gets them there. Hopefully that gets them there. What I mean, how much do you judge or put your judgment? Should we put our judgment on our kids when they want to make purchases? So if it's something that is just you know worthless, or something that they'll almost certainly regret, I mean, you have them do it, you have them wait. What's your sort of advice there?
Give them the freedom, but have conversation about it. Hey, you mentioned you want this. Are you willing to give that idea up for this? Share with them the consequences. Hey, here's the benefit of buying this item now. You get to enjoy it right now. You may outgrow, so talk about the benefits, talk about the consequences, but the decision's yours. Pain's a good teacher, especially pain in a safe, secure environment. When they're in 3 weeks, when they're really bummed about buying that teddy bear versus saving for that bike, we can remind them. It's always good to push on bruises, right? So it's, hey, remember when you made that decision? Let's talk about that. So we're kind of pushing on that bruise. So it's nothing too severe. We're not ridiculing them, but we're again asking questions that make them feel that pain again. So we're helping them to shape and mold positive financial behavior. It's much easier to mold positive behaviors than to modify it after bad behaviors have stuck. So I think that little bit of be very careful. So don't push our kids over the edge, but reminding them of that decision. So next time when they're in the store, they see that bike, say, "Oh yeah, remember you bought that bear." Right? How do you feel about that purchase now? We're not ridiculing, but we're saying, hey, how do you feel about that? Do you wish you would have maybe not bought that bear? What do you think you'll do next time? So we can lead through questions. That's a lot of training, even with adults. So we train coaches. And the big part of training is we're not making value judgments on them or judging them. We're just asking questions where they can judge themselves. And I think that's the skill set we want to really instill is, hey, how can somebody self-correct in the future?
Yeah, that I like that. I mean, I will say it sounds really good. In practice, it can be harder when you see your kid making a purchase. You're just like, oh no, this is.
True.
Uh, and then I think with in-app purchases and things like that, that's another area that where it's just so hyper targeted. And um, do you have thoughts on those, or put that in the same bucket? Say, hey, they can make these decisions, and know they're losing that money, and hopefully they either appreciate it or learn the lesson.
Yeah, it's tough nowadays. They're exposed to ads all over the place. And I think, a bigger picture, just zooming out on that, and these ads are trying to convince them. So I think a lot of the training we didn't do with our kids is to train them on media and advertising. A very simple and fun way to do so is to, when a commercial comes up or a pop-up comes up or whatever type of ad comes on the radio, is having conversations. Hey, who are they talking to here? What are they trying to convince you of? What are they saying that this will do for you? Right. So helping them to logically analyze ads is a critical skill set. Many adults never develop this. So if we can instill that in our kids, so there's using logic versus emotion, a lot of money is taking it away from the emotional side and taking it to the logical side of things. And I've back in my financial service days, I started this company 18 years ago. Before that, I was in 15 years financial service. Last many years were in the mortgage space. And I would, have great conversations, very logical conversation with people. I'd pay off all their debt, save them a few $1,000s a month. They'd have one payment. I was excited for them, work out a budget. Here you go. Nice knowing you. Good luck. You're off in the, and then 6 months later, hey, I need another 50 grand, another 100 grand. Right. So that logic doesn't always work when they're faced with these challenges. So going back to a kid, hey, this person's been so brought up by getting this satisfaction by purchases and these types of things. They haven't built those skill sets to really work toward those longer term goals. And ads are a big influence. I get calls, oh, I just bought a boat, or I just went on a $20,000 vacation, and it's like those are skill sets that are formed in childhood. And the more we can help our kids evaluate those ads from a logical perspective, the sooner we can do that, the better. And it's a fun activity. Nobody likes ads. Oh, we got to add a lot of things. You can fast forward some things now. They make you watch it, right? So it's a great timely education piece we can do with our kids. Makes it fun, entertaining, and especially when they're younger, they'll say some wild things. They'll actually shock you with how much they can perceive when you're having those conversations. But it's a quite fun activity to do.
Yeah, no, that's a smart approach. I like that. I like that. Kind of unbundle what they're actually seeing, what's actually being said, and uh, good teaching moment as well. It's a good teaching moment as well.
Yeah.
I'd be curious going to a little bit more advanced topics of finance, things like debt and investing. How do you bring those topics up at a younger age, in age appropriate way, I guess I should say.
Yeah, definitely. So with the investing piece, I think, when we're saving, hey, we have our income, our savings, our long-term savings, short-term savings, and our expenses, right? So long-term, we're starting them save early. They're not going to get what they're saving for. Oh, you want to buy a house, you want to buy a car, you want to start a business, right? We can have those conversations with them. Once they get into third, fourth, fifth grade, they may start to have more of an idea on that. Especially kids now, they're really advanced. They see a lot of people on YouTube and stuff starting businesses. A lot of people flaunting money and stuff, which I don't think is necessarily bad if the kid's grounded. So, we can introduce those types of concepts on long-term saving just initially. Hey, what do you want? Do you want to own a home? Do you want to start a business, be your own boss? Do you want to invest in the stock market? Stocks like, companies they may know, the Disney, the Nike and things like that. So we can start to have those conversations with them. Additionally, I always like there's banks out there that will open up kids accounts. One of my favorite memories as a kid was going to World Bank with my mom. Maybe had a couple $100 in there, and they'd stamp my passport book, and it grow 5 cents. Oh yeah, you made 5 cents. I was so excited about that. But also parents can introduce that concept as well if they have the means. Hey, you're going to invest in this. We're going to, I'm invested in the stock market. Talk about what they're invested in, and we'll invest your money there, fictitiously, and then I'll give you returns every month on what that does. Some month they'll make money, some months they'll lose. So we're teaching them in a fun way, again, trying to gamify that education experience. And then as they're getting into their high school years, obviously we get more sophisticated and so forth. And so I think, introduce that long-term savings early is good. Additionally, I'm a big fan. I think families waste a lot of money on kids' gifts. holidays, birthdays, all these things, thrown out, right? Aunts, uncles, whoever, especially people with bigger family. They have so much junk in the ground after about the first year. It's like, okay, what am I going to do with this? We go hand down to somebody else. Introducing the concept of, hey, if you're going to spend $100 on my child, instead of that, spend $20 on a toy, put $80 into a long-term savings plan, right? So we can actually have members contribute toward their longer term, investment. So, and being able to show the kid that as well. Again, they're going to be like, oh, I wanted the, PlayStation 10. I don't know what they're at now, PlayStation, whatever. But I got this game toy. But I also got $80. So having that conversation and talking about why they did that, what it can grow to. I think also playing around with a compound interest calculator early on, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth grade, through high school is neat, because a lot of kids, it depends, lower socioeconomic kids, they don't have a lot of hope for the future to be financially secure. And in introducing that, especially in those, it helps to build up hope. It gives them, oh, I can be a millionaire, and I don't have to, start out with hundreds of thousands of dollars. I can start by saving $100 a month and end up maybe in that millionaire status within my lifetime. It's exciting. It gives them hope. So, I think there's a lot of fun ways that we can introduce that. Again, if we're introducing a stock market, hey, having them find companies they might want to invest in. I'm not saying make that actual investment decision, do that, but playing the game with them, again, hey, you made this much this month. Oh, this month we lost a little. Oh, you made this much. So they're starting to get the excitement, but they're also starting to understand, hey, I can make money. I can lose money. I always prefer to make it a winning by the end of the year, right? Just so it's that positive encouragement. I think we can have some fun with it. So I encourage parents just to go out there, play some games, see how the kid reacts, see what conversations come up, which is really neat around those, and take it from there.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. I mean, I like separating long term and short term savings. That idea for your kids. I think I remember as a kid. I mean, compound interest is one of the most amazing things to learn about, because you see how those numbers grow, and you're just like, wow. To your point, you could become a millionaire and without starting with a lot, as long as you're consistent and start early, right? Like those are the key areas there. The other area that blows me away with finance is a little off topic, but it's just mortgage rates. As we've seen mortgage rates go up, it just went up another point. It's like, that's crazy for your monthly payment. It just really impacts. But I think that's probably connected with interest and how all that kind of works. But yeah,
And I think for families too, and I'm closing on a place here soon, and so I'm watching it very closely. The 10-year bond was down today, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed that trend goes. But for families too, if we look at the home ownership cost, what it costs to get, if we go back to the 50s, right? That was just a rite of passage. You worked hard, you had a decent job, blue collar job, whatever, you were able to buy a home and live the American dream, right? Nowadays, if you look at the cost of owning a home with what you need to make, it's astronomical. It's very high, and it's really hard for those kids to get that first home at an age where that can really grow and benefit their life. So I think, if parents can go back to that statement I said before about helping the kids save for the long term in advance, because we don't know where rates are going to go in the future. We don't know where inflation is going to take us. We don't know any of this. There's always a big risk for the future. And the more we can get in our kids' war chest of funding for whatever that may hold, the better. So yeah, a great point there. And it is, I really want kids to live, that dream where they own a home, where they're able to grow. It's not necessary they own a home, but at least being able to, benefit from the opportunity America provides. Economic landscape, the ability to start a business very quickly. Back 30 years ago, you had to have a storefront. Now we're talking over the internet. I'm in my home office. I don't know where you're at, but across the states. So we're able to start businesses cheap, and we have a lot of opportunity here. I think some things might be slipping away, like home ownership and other things, but there's still opportunity. But the more we can help to build up that war chest of funds for our kids early, the more they can capitalize on that opportunity.
yeah, no, that's right. Well put. Well put. And I liked when you were talking about stocks as well, because that's something that kids can start to learn. I mean, it's a very important part of investing, and it is a topic that kids can pick up on because they understand Disney. You say, okay, Disney's a company; they make money from their theme parks and from their movies, and you don't need to get too in the weeds there, but areas they understand.
Yeah,
So now you can buy a little piece of that company if you think it's going to do better in the future, you think it's going to generate, cash flow as a business, and that will in turn make it worth more money in the future. So you can start teaching those lessons, which I think is pretty powerful. And to your point, you also, as you know, there's stock simulators. There's like,
true.
competitions you can set up just amongst yourselves, or just have quote unquote fake accounts, but you can give real rewards based on those. But have a place where maybe it's during that monthly meeting you suggested with your kids, you take a look at it and say, okay, here's how we're doing. And it also teaches, that's also going to start teaching your kids hopefully a good lesson when they see money go, when they see the stocks go down, right? Because that's can be a good time to invest more, first of all, and that's also just a fact of life. And then you start learning about long-term returns and say, okay, yeah, in the stock market in the short term goes up and down and up and down, in the long term it goes up, right? So
Yeah,
we need to keep
yeah.
that view and not just pull our money when it starts going down because we think it's going to disappear or something like that.
Very true. No, I think the earlier and more often we can introduce that, the better. I think with kids, the early on, hey, it's about shaping behaviors, work ethic, and that. And then, with high school students, about preparing them for near term challenges, moving out on their own, avoiding major college debt, staying out of credit card debt. But I think if we can introduce that theme of investing and growing money early and consistently, by the time they're out on their own, starting to work, now there's some confidence, there's some basic understanding. And I'm always surprised. I talk to my CPA, I talk to my financial advisor about this all the time. It's like, how many people do you serve that are of higher net worth that really don't know a lot of the basics or have a lot of questions for you that you think are remedial? And they're like, I'm always shocked. Right? I just talked to my CPA the other day. She goes, I'm always shocked at the questions that these people have. So I think the earlier we can start to introduce that, so they are competent to make their own decisions and being able to ask good questions of the professionals instead of like really remedial questions that they're shocked with, um, the better.
I like that. No, it's yeah, and I think that's a good lesson. Uh, not only are there holes in a lot of people's education, like your CPA or financial advisor saying, but we shouldn't be ashamed of those holes, and it's much more powerful to ask those questions than to not ask them. If you think it's a dumb question, it's better to get it out there and learn. And I mean, that's
True.
a power of the internet, a power of of all the tools we have at our disposal. It's easier than ever to kind of learn those topics. I'd be curious if there are other areas, projects, initiatives, et cetera, around technology that use technology that help with financial literacy you're either excited about or that you'd recommend we check out. Obviously your
Yeah.
website, we will, but
Yeah, when I look at technology, I think it's great as a piece of it, right? But when we look at higher order thinking skill sets, at the bottom of any teaching, these are classroom frameworks. We look at Bloom's or Webb's depth of knowledge, and there's frameworks, and at the very bottom, it's recall reproduction. So that person would be able to pass a test, right? And I think a lot of your gamified financial education is around that. So I think there's a place for that. At the top of the higher order thinking skill sets are things like analysis, creation, and that's really hard to do within a game setting. And that's why I think parents and one-on-one involvement is so critical, because they can create that budget, they can create that plan, they can analyze what the stock was doing in that simulation. So it's taking them to higher order thinking skill sets. But again, I think there's the technology out there now, at least all that I've seen. I've reviewed a lot. We've been looking for good technology we can recommend. It's just on that low level recall, reproduction, understanding, where they're going to have quick learning loss. If we look at the school systems, they're not teaching it. And the ones that do, about half states mandate a very short class, less than a semester for the majority. It is on very low level learning skill sets. They're trying to cram in so much information into 20, 30 hours. And the kids are going to forget it. There's going to be no benefit. They're not going to have any preparation for near-term financial challenges. And when we look at the materials and the curriculum and lesson plans that these states put together, it's such low order thinking. It wouldn't meet any educational standards out there. Not qualified teachers, no funding, no outcomes. So I always share that because a lot of parents think, oh, I'm in a state that has financial literacy requirements. I've been doing a review of every state. None has even made it past 20% out of 100 on basic education standards. So it's at a failure rate so big. I say that, hey, parents, it's on you. I know your plate's full, but it's your responsibility because schools aren't doing it. No matter what state you're in, it falls on you. I know you're busy as it is, but this is the one thing that they're really going to need in life. Sadly, it relates to people's emotional state, their ability to live a fulfilling life and experience those things that you want for them. So, again, not to add another check thing on your plate, but I'm hoping that you'll start to at least have those discussions with your kids.
Yeah, no, that's a great message, and it is sort of wild. I'm not trying to demonize anything, but you learn calculus, which it's good for thinking, I think, but no one uses calculus in their day to day lives, and I'm not suggesting get rid of calculus, but just as an example, there's so many subjects where gosh, you're memorizing something, you're maybe even learning deep concepts, but you're ignoring financial literacy, which is literally the concept that every single human needs. There's no exceptions there. We all need to learn the basics and even go beyond the basics. And here you are saying, correctly, because you've done the research, like it's not being taught. It's being,
Yeah.
and when it is, it's kind of glossed over. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I've been comparing subject for high school subjects, subject by subject, because the big thing is, oh, we don't have room to teach personal finance, and so I've been going subject by subject through. Algebra at the high school level or above used by less than 10% of people in the workforce. Science, any biology, chemistry used about by 6% of people in the workforce. English, the first 2 years of English are good, comprehension and research. The last two, British and American literature, I don't care about that. I don't know anybody that uses that. I'm not having tea and talking about that with anybody. Foreign language even, I think it's good for some, but, when you really look at the usability after 2 years, can anybody speak that language fluently? Would they ever be hired? I took 2 years of Spanish, and I went to a meat market here, and I always try to speak Spanish. And I thought I ordered 5 pounds of meat. It was 15 pounds, or 4 pounds. I ordered 15 pounds. It came out. I'm like, what is this? And he's like, oh, you ordered this. I'm like, oh, okay. I need to practice my Spanish. It's 2 years of Spanish. So, with those subjects, you can't apply what you learned after. So learning loss is very steep. But with money and personal finance benefits 100%. And you can apply it right away. A kid's 18, he's going to move out on his own and make a college decision, and have to have all these credit card offers mailed to him, having credit, having bank accounts. So you're actually applying it, which makes the learning retention much longer. But for the parents that start young, now we have a good foundation. We have the behaviors. We have those things. We prep them for near-term life events. Now when they're out, they stand a much better chance of avoiding some dumb mistakes like I made and a lot of people make when you come out of high school, go into college. And that's the real goal. Hey, if we can make our kids' life easier and more fulfilling, that's what we're all about.
Yeah, no, I love that. And the flip side of that, I mean, I think it sounds like are aligned. It would be good to teach some of that in school, but because there are a lot of areas that are really objective, about finance, about savings, about debt, about, things like that. But by the same token, there's a lot that's more subjective in terms of each family is different. And that's why it's so important. One of the reasons it's so important, I think, that parents get involved, like some parents want to pay for their kids' college and want to help their kids when they can. Other parents are saying, hey, I'm going to, give you everything you need under the sun till you turn 18. And then, to your point, you're off. Right. So there's
Yeah.
different approaches, and there's not necessarily a right one or wrong one. I have my own opinions, but but everyone treats it differently. And money is such a sensitive subject as well. A lot depends on how much you have and how, your own personal situation. So, no, I like how you're encouraging parents to have those conversations. I think that's right on. I love the monthly meeting ideas, getting your kids involved, maybe with stock market. It definitely not doesn't need to be for real, like you're saying, just but a simulation or something, so they can actually start to learn the power of investing. Um, Any closing thoughts for us? I mean, you just went through a lot of really great ideas there, Vince. But anything else you want to make sure that our listeners get from this conversation?
Yeah, just piggybacking off a point you made earlier about making it fun and engaging, like with the technology, those games. I think we could do the same in a real life setting by making competitions with our kids, right? So one of our favorite is the like a utility bill challenge where we bring out, let's say, the electric bill from last year. We say, okay, hey, last year, here's what we paid over the year. You see in June, here's what the bill was, $200. Let's work here toward this June. If we can reduce that by 10%, right, to $180, if we can reduce that bill down, we'll go out and have a bowling night or something. So you can have these types of games. They're teachable moments. They're fun. And, the funny thing is parents report like the kids yelling at them, "Hello, mom, shut off the light. We're trying to, go bowling." The other thing is, leverage those teachable moments just in your everyday. You're out experiencing finances every single day. You're shopping. Why are you picking this can of soup over this one? If you're meeting if you're going into the bank, having your kid in there so they can experience professional interactions. Having the banker talk to them, shake hands, a basic soft skill that kids don't have these days. So helping them learn those things in fun ways and just get creative. You're experiencing finances every day. Try to pull your kids in some way and make it age appropriate so you're having those conversations regularly.
I love that. That's great advice, Vince. And you can learn more about, well, not Vince, but more about finance and learn some of these ideas at financialeducatorscouncil.org. Again, that'll be in the show notes, so you can just click on it. But thank you, Vince. This has been a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate it.
Hey, great being here, Will. Thanks for having me.